Chungking Express, Chungking Express. If I hear California Dream one more time, I'm gonna lose my friggin' mind. What's left of it? That or What a Difference a Day Makes, or that reggae song. Let's say seriously, they need to reload the jukebox. I mean, dude had money. This was what, his third or fourth movie?
I think so, yeah.
So, I mean, just shell out some stuff. And I guess, it's her character. She's cute because that's her favorite song. She likes to play it loud, anyway. Hello there, CriterioNate here. Josh there, Caitlynn there, and this is number 453, Kar-wai's Chungking Express, Chungking Samlan. That's close enough. 1994, 102 minutes, color stereo, Cantonese and Mandarin. So this is what, the second, our second and currently only other Kar-wai movie in the Criterion Collection. The other being, In the Mood for Love, and I remember little to nothing about that movie except as two people in an apartment building. That's all I remember. It was a while back. So this is probably definitely a lot different. Definitely a little more. I think definitely a lot more humorous than In the Mood for Love. I think In the Mood for Love is much more sensual drama. There's a lot of sensuality in Chungking Express too, but at the same time, I think he lets the humor bleed through a lot with our lead actors. So anyway, it was one of those movies that I really like. I had been waiting for this because I knew my brother was a big fan of Kar-wai's films. And so, I knew he was coming up to visit. I said, we got to do this. We got to get together and film this. So here we are. And but I was like, okay, I kind of like looking up reviews, reading the back of the. I don't know how many times I read the back of the thing, but I guess. See, here's the problem. It says 2 heartsick cops, both jilted by ex-lovers, cross paths at the Midnight Express takeout restaurant stand. That's what I guess I thought that they met, and that's when I thought the movie was about. But
technically, they cross paths, but
they did, and it is the same place.
Yeah, it's
you figure there. I guess they probably have if they're working both cops in the same district, or I don't know how the districts work in was it China or no Hong Kong? Yeah. But and their numbers are I guess HQ. Did you pronounce his name? I'll call him 223. It's easier just to call
223, and the other guy's
663.
Yeah, 663.
Yeah. No, it's the owner keeps calling him 633.
Oh, okay.
And then the guy corrects him. Isn't it 633? Whatever it is, I don't care. Yeah. So I was like, I kept reading it. So anyway, it's about these 2 cops, and there's two separate stories. The first story focuses on the first cop. 223. We'll just call him the first cop. It's easier that way because we get his name, but I'm not going to try and pronounce it. What? Quay. So the first cop, they both hang out at this snack bar, the Midnight Express. Is Chungking is candied for midnight?
No, I don't think so. But
I didn't know if that was because it's called Midnight Express in the. I don't know if that was like for tourists or anything.
No. The other area that it takes a lot of place in, that huge market.
Yeah, the Chungking Mansion. Yes. Okay, so it's kind of the mix between the two.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense to me now.
Yeah.
So anyway, these 2 cops are hanging out at the Midnight Express, and the first cop is there. And his girlfriend May broke up with him, and he's trying to get back together with her. And they broke up on April Fool's Day, and so he thought it was a joke. And so it's I think it's set toward the end of April, and he's been buying cans of pineapple to and he says that he's eating all these cans of pineapple that are expired on his birthday, May 1st. And he says that he waits a month, and if something like if she doesn't come back in a month, it wasn't meant to be, or something like that.
And the significance of pineapple is that it was her favorite fruit.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you for that. See, this is why I'm glad. Yeah. This is why it's always easier to do reviews with other people, because I forget these details, and they become a lot shorter. But nobody complains, but unless I hate it. But anyway, So yeah, and then there's this woman in the blonde wig who we never get her name, and she's a drug smuggler, and she's got these Indian people to help her smuggle drugs out of the country. However, they end up running off with the drugs, and she ends up, trying to find out where these guys went to. And I guess the main, head smuggler works at this bar, and I guess she got set up. And so while she's running around looking for everything, she ends up going to this bar where the first cop ends up meeting her, and he ends up falling for her and trying to flirt with her, and she ends up passing out, and he takes her to a hotel because he thinks that she wants to get it on with him, but she actually just wants to pass out. And when she says rest means an entirely different thing for the literal sense in her term. So he stays up and eats, which he does a lot of, and he eats a lot, quite a bit. He gets a lot of room service, eats fries and
4 chef salads.
4 chef salads. I thought that was the second cut.
No,
well,
they
both eat it.
They're all sandwiches.
Oh yes, yeah, they're wrapped up like subs almost,
Yeah.
And so he ends up, taking and he takes her shoes off and he shines her shoes before he leaves, and he ends up running around. What was the jogging significance? That was
he believes it
like-
makes it so he won't cry.
Yeah,
Because
because
all
you
the
sweat, so
gets rid of
all the liquid
excess
in your
water.
body,
That's it.
it goes out so you
So-
don't cry.
Yeah, when he's heartbroken, he goes for a jog, so he'll cry less.
Yeah.
And so he's
And he does it in the rain too. So
Yeah.
but yeah, and so he leaves he's about to abandon his pager when he gets a call from from the woman wishing him a happy birthday. And anyway, the section ends with the woman murdering the drug lord and abandoning the blonde wig, and
as well as the guy trying to he goes back to the place and the cousin of the next main girl is like, hey, do you want to go out with my cousin?
Yeah.
She's available. And he's like, I'm not interested in dudes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She has super, super short hair, and then he
Yeah.
runs into her, and that's the start of the next section.
Yeah. And and so that's part 1 and part 2, and so part 2 features the second cop, and Faye, who's this woman who's the cousin of the owner who works at the Midnight Express and who started working there, whose main ambition in life is to make everyone annoyingly aware of the mamas and the papas California dreaming throughout the entire movie. And not just at a respectable level, but at a, hey, can you turn it, not at a, hey, blah, 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 loud level, It's just just yelling, and she definitely resents it when she has to turn down the music, But yeah, it seems like there's no living without that song. I thought Monday was okay. You could change it up if you want to focus on the band, or what's that other song? No one else get it. The other jams, the other jams by Mamas and the Papas. So anyway, so the second cop is having a fling with this stewardess, and they have all the fun in his apartment, and his apartment is near this. It's is it near the airport or just near this walkway?
I'm going to say a walkway just because of the fact that he goes up at 2, and it would make less sense if it was the
There's just so many walkways in
Yeah.
airports that I figured, and because she's a stewardess, I figured, they met near the airport, and
I
so
think it's like a walkway that leads to where the airport's at.
No,
but
you're probably right,
Yeah.
and I think that's
Makes
totally
sense
right. I don't think it was too clear as to where
It really
the
wasn't.
actual
Yeah.
location. So anyway, so the stewardess ends up breaking up with him, and she ends up writing a note. It's like, flight canceled, your place canceled, and all that. Here's your key back. So he gives her the key, and she gives it to Faye, and Faye tacks it up, and the owner and everybody working there reads it before he does, and so she ends up taking the key. Bless you. And ends up taking the key and finding out where he lives, and like basically going into his apartment and just messing around with things and changing things up and all that while he's on duty.
And cleaning it.
And cleaning, yes, and putting the plane in the fish tank and all that, and listening to her own cover of the Cranberries' Dreams, which is, of course, she's not listening to it, but she sings, the actress Faye Wong sings, is it a Cantonese, I think?
Yeah, I think so.
Cantonese cover of the Cranberries' Dreams, I think called Dream Lover. So she basically changes up his apartment, and the second cop, played by Tony Leung Chiu-wai. Yeah, I think so.
Sure.
Well, I know him as Tony Leung. We know him from what movie was it? One of the first ones. John Woo's The Killer. Yeah, he was in a really, really early Criterion movie. And that's how I know him. You know, I recognize him. That's why I recognized him when I saw him. From In the Mood for Love.
Yeah, so I was about to say, I'm pretty sure he's in that.
Yes, but I remembered him first from that movie because it's an early one. But anyway, so he's a pretty funny. He's actually honestly a pretty funny dude because he talks to his the items. He talks to the bar soap and the rag and it's crying rag and all that. Even though it's wet, he says, "Oh, it's crying," And so
pull yourself together. You can't just let yourself
go.
go.
You can't let yourself go.
Because the bar soap's
So she eventually ends up replacing his thin bar soap with a big, newer one, and replacing his plush toy with a Garfield, which we see a woman buying earlier from a store where the woman in the blonde wig is standing outside, and of course you have to kind of put that stuff together. That's one of those details that I definitely would have missed if I had not, I noticed, I was waiting for this woman because I was waiting for her because I knew that she was the most, iconic moment in the movie. I knew that her character was, probably the most iconic character in the movie and on the freaking cover for, so I was like, okay, I figured there'd be more. Well, we didn't get, and that's when I was like, okay, I thought it was the woman in the blonde wig. I figured that's a wig, because it's obviously a wig. I could tell that was a wig, and I thought, oh, okay, so one moment she's going to be this killer, but then she's this cute, woman listening to a California Dreamer, but no, it's entirely different, obviously, So anyway, the second cop eventually notices, and she ends up getting caught and finding out, she ends up getting found out. He comes into his apartment while she's there, and she ends up leaving, and eventually, it's weird. She ends up returning the key and all that, and the letter,
which he never reads,
which he still never reads, and he ends up still asking her out on a date. I thought that was the weirdest part. This woman breaks into your house, and not breaks in. She had the key technically, but she's been in your house, changing things around, and you're still going to go out with her. I think that's a little, I don't know.
It's whatever. There's the whole idea of the allure of this mystery person, this weirdo.
And I think part of it might actually be just because of the fact that he's seen her around so much. He knows a decent amount about her, at least personality wise, and he, as she likes to point out, he invited her to come over.
Yeah,
he just didn't say under what circumstances.
Under what circumstances, yes.
So she kind of
he was setting himself up, I guess. Yeah. So maybe because he's really missing the stewardess throughout the movie. And so I think he is lonely, and he becomes very lonely filling that void. And it doesn't help that. What happens is they end up, she ends up agreeing to go on a date with him, and he ends up going, and she never shows up, and so it's raining, and so he ends up leaving, but it's revealed that she ended up showing up early because she knew the California, as it's called, the California club gets crowded early, so she ends up coming early, and she ends up leaving a note for, I think, the owner of the snack.
With her cousin again.
With her cousin. And he never reads it. He ends up taking it and throwing it away. Yeah. And then he ends up retrieving it and finds out that it's a written out boarding pass to some place, and however the destination is blurred from the rain, and so I guess a year later, we jump forward a year later, and the second cop has bought the Midnight Express from the owner. Faye is now a stewardess, and she comes back to visit, and she hears the California Dreaming coming from the shop where it used to be, and she finds out that he bought it from her cousin and all that. And he's like, I thought you didn't like loud music. He's like, oh, some things you have to get used to, And like, oh god, they're getting so romantic. Oh gosh. So he ends up finally asking her, what was the destination? And she says, oh, it doesn't matter, or something like that. I don't remember exactly what she says.
Well, he's like, where was it supposed to go? She's like, oh, well, I'll write you a new one.
I'll write you a new one,
Where do you want to go? And he's like,
wherever you want to take me. And that's the end of the movie, basically. So,
yeah.
I thought this was a cool movie. I thought it was pretty good. I definitely liked it a lot more. I like the humor. I always love humor in movies, so I liked this definitely more than In the Mood for Love. I thought, the humor. I thought Tony Leung's character, the second cop 663, was very funny, and he's a good-looking dude. He's definitely a very attractive man. So I'm like, hey, this is like. And if you ever wanted to see him in boxer briefs, throughout the whole movie, he's skimping. When he's home, he lets it all hang out, kind of.
40% of the movie he's in boxer briefs. So.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm at home. This is what I do,
I don't know. I'd call him some tighty whities.
Yeah, he's pretty tight on him. Yeah, so. Not that I was actively looking, but
there's a few shots where it's right up in your face.
Yeah,
so
I know.
Let's be fair.
That's fair. There's a lot of panning up, panning down and all that, So anyway, I thought it was good. I definitely, I'm glad I like California Dreamin', because if I didn't like that song, I'd have just been like, oh,
yeah,
God.
I feel that.
And and the other song, "What a Difference a Day Makes" by Dinah Washington, which you only hear twice, I think, in the movie. But then the other song, the owner of the first section of the movie plays Dennis Brown's "Things to Come." I think that's the name of the movie. I think that's the name of the film. Not gonna look it up. Never mind. But yeah, he plays it on the jukebox. There is a nice shot of these CDs in the jukebox, like spinning, and of course. The back of the CDs from the lights shine, and it gives off a really nice effect. Mm-hmm. There's also a great score piece by Michael Galasso, who I'm familiar with a little bit of his work, that plays in the opening sequence. And, so a lot of not big on music, but the music they pick is good. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, I just thought it was a quirky little movie. It definitely, the humor is good, and I thought, I don't know if it wasn't my favorite movie. It wasn't my favorite movie ever, but I thought it was, for a Chinese movie, I thought it did the job. I thought it was a great movie for the 90s. Definitely, Mm-hmm. It's definitely got touches of the early or mid to early 90s. All throughout, and that's all I got. What do you guys think? What's your final thoughts?
You can go first, Steve.
I think it's a really interesting movie. It's definitely one you kind of want to watch a couple times to get all the little things that it hides in it. Yeah. But it is a very interesting movie. It can be a little slow. I won't say it's the fastest movie. But it's worth the watch. It's definitely worth giving a shot.
I think it needs second two watches just for the fact. I definitely was thrown when the second part, halfway through, we jumped to the and so that threw me, and so I want to watch it again and get a better grasp for the. The dialogue and especially the narration. Almost every character in the movie, or at least almost every character, the four main leads, the woman in the blonde wig, the two cops, and Faye, get to narrate throughout the movie. And so when the first cop announced the second cop's arrival, I was like, okay, are we going to see him again? And we don't. I don't think we see him again, throughout the rest of the movie.
Maybe in passing it back.
Yeah, I was like, really? I was squinting trying to find him, and like, I thought their paths might cross at least at the very end, they might be, work together or something, but yeah. So, anyway.
I mean, I love the movie. It's one of my favorites. I think, well, with the music, big thing for me. Well, I always see it as like it's every character's sort of theme, and so like, yes, I'll admit, California Dreamin' does get like by the last time you hear it, you're like, okay, this has got to be the end of the movie because I can't listen to California Dreamin' one more time, and it would be different as if it was like if it was playing a beginning of the song earlier and then the end of the song later, but it's just the beginning that keeps restarting, and so you keep hearing about
you don't really hear stop into a church and all of these, and you hear the guitar intro several times. She just keeps starting the CD over and over again, and so it's So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, but I always viewed it as like different characters' themes. So that's kind of how. I mean, I love.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I love all the humor in it. I think it's I think the first cop is hilarious. All of his, and I love the narration because it like each character you get to see like different sides of them. And I think for me the biggest thing that I love about it is just how everything looks. I was once trying to describe it to Leiden, one of my friends, and I was like describing it as, visually it's like shoegaze the movie. So just if you like shoegaze music, you'll love the visual.
Yes, the blur aspect that you see gets a lot of that in the beginning, especially in the first part.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of
colors and everything.
There's also a lot of nice. There's at least two nice shots where Kar-wai implements the stop motion kind of slow, where one character acts very slowly, but everything else moves around him.
Yeah.
The second cop ends up taking a drink of something, but he does it really slowly while Faye looks on, while you can see other people moving by, in fast motion,
Yeah.
And then later on in the California Club, he puts a coin into the jukebox very slowly while people in the bar behind him move around really fast. So, so that's a nice touch. So
yeah.
Chungking Express. Oh God, we're rating. Again, I like this movie. I give it an A- for just the soundtrack. I feel like the soundtrack did get a smidgen repetitive for me. So
yeah.
Outside of A-, good movie, but a repetitive soundtrack. So there you are. So so supplements. There's only one bit. There's a 12-minute episode of the British television series of Moving Pictures, where it features Wong Kar-wai and the director of cinematography, Christopher Doyle, and they're in Hong Kong, and he takes them to different spots where they filmed the movie, like Chungking Mansions and the store where the Midnight Express was, and the apartment, which I guess was Doyle's apartment, where they shot. Yeah. They shot where the second cop lives, and that's a trip to see everything the way it's supposed to look, where it normally looks, and how they changed everything for the shot. And there's a bit of his other movies, Days of Running Wild, I think, or I don't remember. There's another movie. There's his first or second movie. And then there's a lot of his, at the time, his next movie, Fallen Angels, which was apparently supposed to be the third storyline in Chungking Express, but he ended up running out of time. And so he ended up it ended up getting too expansive of a movie, so he ended up saving it for its own feature-length film. And so, yeah, you just get a lot of Kar-wai, and so, and then the trailer, which kind of, honestly, the U.S. trailer, to be fair, which kind of sucks the life out of the movie and tries to make it a little too Americanized,
It's very
and there's a lot of American aspects, touches in
Yeah.
in the movie.
But
they don't hit you over the head with it.
and like the
You
trailer
don't get
just
Don
takes-
Lamond in a world
Yes.
with 2 cops and a blonde wig woman. They don't even mention the second cop. They just mention the first cop and the 2 female leads. And it's like
it's like every shot in the movie, or every shot in the trailer, it's just taking the specific American sort of aspects from the movie, and it's just putting all those out. So she's shooting a gun. It's like the
woman, the plane on the woman's naked back. Yes.
Yeah. California Dreaming. It's like
Faye dancing. In the
I wouldn't even been surprised if they had used the Cranberries' Dreams over
the actual.
I was expecting that, but they actually used
her
cover. So I'm like, all right, okay. So that's it for today. Oh yeah, Chungking Express, A- for me. So yeah, that's it for today. Thanks for coming out, guys. As you see this. When you see this, this will be a bit of a time warp because I ain't uploading this until we're actually there. So, our next movie is El Norte, Gregory Nava, and oh god, Buñuel. Oh god, I'm so glad I technically don't have to watch Buñuel next. Although I'll. See, I'm trying to explain this to you. Like when we get here, I'll be just like, oh god, But I don't have to watch that because I'm watching whatever it is I'll be watching next.
Which one are you on right? Well,
which one am I on right now?
Yeah.
Let's see. What am I watching technically right now? Technically, I'm watching Louis Malle's The Lovers and The Fire Within. All right.
Wait, which one?
Louis Malle's The Lovers.
So you're only on 429.
420. No. No, it doesn't matter. You guys know that we'd be anyway. So anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching. Don't chase pineapples with alcohol because you'll be in the bathroom vomiting.
And don't eat 30 cans.
Don't 30 cans of expired pineapple at that.
In one night, right before drinking.
And And feel free to give the Mamas and the Papas, the rest of the Mamas and Papas discography a chance because they're kind of cool.
If you like Mamas and the Papas, leave a comment below, and I'd like to know.
Well, yeah. What's your favorite Mamas and the Papas song down below? Leave it. I'm doing a poll here. Let's get a poll started here on YouTube poll.
Faye Wong on Spotify.
Faye Wong on Spotify. Yeah. She did a cover in Cantonese and Mandarin too on 2 separate albums apparently.
Oh, that's cool.
She did one album. Her first album had Cantonese, and I think the second album she did a Mandarin cover. So
nice.
Yeah, and
be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps them out.
That's a well-known moral of this story. Gosh, I feel like there should be one more. And don't steal the keys from the guys and go into the house and make things. Don't leave Garfields in strangers' houses. Yeah, so
and steal their polar bears.
And steal their polar bears. Yes, and don't put toy planes into fish tanks because I'm sure that messes with the fish's water. That too. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching. We'll see you all next time for I guess El Norte. Yeah. So thanks again, guys, and thanks again. This is what fourth time for you. Was it Man Bites Dog? Fear and Loathing. Life Aquatic.
Oh, okay. I'd forgotten.
Yeah, well, I'd forgotten too because it's just a still image with audio because the video's screwed up, and then third for you because I remember I couldn't get it to work. So if you ever haven't watched it yet, it's just a still image of us looking dorky while we talk. The audio just cuts. I just cut it together, but they know. So anyway, yeah, that's it for me. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all for El Norte. Yeah, whenever we get to that, whenever this one's it. So, from the future, or from the past, whatever. Until next time, goodbye.